Karoline exposes. TikTok CEO on live TV, "You're brainwashing our kids." They thought it was just for dancing, just an app to kill time, just another harmless trend, until one family in Ohio noticed something strange. Their daughter's phone was still draining battery even when TikTok wasn't open. Late at night, the mic stayed active, the GPS kept pinging. They submitted a complaint, and the reply from Apple access to background microphone and location was granted through default permissions. That's when Karoline Levitt got involved. She didn't come to Congress with speculation. She came with documents, data, and a very clear warning. If an app can listen to your child's bedroom, it's not social media, it's surveillance. But that wasn't all. In front of a full chamber, she played a series of viral TikTok challenges being shared among teens, dangerous, reckless, and in some cases banned in TikTok's Chinese version. Then came the final blow. Proof that political ads disguised as viral content were being promoted in battleground states. This wasn't about freedom of speech anymore. This was engineered influence hidden behind filters, music, and algorithms. And for the first time, the CEO of TikTok had no comeback. Stay with us. This isn't just a story about Karoline. It's a story about who's really watching your kids. It started with a phone acting strange. The Martin family from a quiet suburb in Ohio wasn't particularly tech-savvy. They lived a modest life, church on Sundays, backyard barbecues, and a general rule that phones stayed off the dinner table. But their youngest daughter, Emily, 14, had begged to download TikTok just like her friends. Eventually, her parents agreed. Everyone was doing it. How bad could it be? 3 weeks later, her father noticed something odd. Daniel Martin, a retired systems technician, saw that Emily's phone battery was draining faster than expected. He ran diagnostics. The phone showed background microphone activity, even when TikTok wasn't open. The GPS had multiple ping requests overnight. He tightened settings, removed permissions, even reinstalled the app. But the behavior persisted. He filed a report to Apple. What came back wasn't comforting. The email read, "Background access to microphone and location is permitted via default app permissions and user agreement. Please review individual app settings." It was all legal. It was all buried in the terms no one reads. And it was all still happening. Daniel's wife, Sarah, was shaken. If they're listening, she asked, who's listening? That report eventually landed on Karoline Levitt's desk. As White House Communications Director, she had been tracking rising concerns about TikTok for months. Silent data collection, behavioral pattern, harvesting subtle political content targeting teens. But this one was different. It wasn't theory. It wasn't third-party speculation. It was technical confirmation straight from Apple. Karoline didn't rush to press. She built a case. She cross-referenced incident reports, aggregated similar complaints, and called in 2 independent cybersecurity experts. They confirmed what Daniel suspected: the TikTok app installed on Emily's phone was continuously accessing sensor data even after being force-closed. This isn't just spyware, one analyst told her. It's behavioral telemetry disguised as entertainment. When the House Oversight Committee scheduled a public hearing on digital privacy, Karoline made sure she was included, not as a politician, as a messenger. The hearing was set for Wednesday morning. The room filled slowly, lawmakers, reporters, tech staffers with lanyards and coffee. Shouzi Chu, TikTok's CEO, sat calmly at the front. He had testified before. He knew the script. When it was Karoline's turn to speak, she skipped the usual political pleasantries. No jokes, no grandstanding. She held up a printout of the Apple response. "This is an official report from Apple's device security team," she began. "It confirms TikTok accessed a minor's microphone and location long after the app was closed. The child's parents had no idea. They had trusted default settings." She let the words hang for a moment. Then she looked directly at Mr. Chu. "Is this your definition of responsible data collection?" He shifted in his seat. "Congresswoman, our app only accesses features with user consent." "You mean the kind buried in 12,000-word user agreements?" she cut in. "Consent isn't real when it's hidden behind legal firewalls." There was silence in the room. Even the cameras stopped adjusting focus. Karoline wasn't finished. TikTok is used by over 100 million Americans. Most of them are children or parents of children. They believe your app turns off when they close it. That's not what's happening. She held up a second document. This is a technical analysis conducted by 2 independent firms. It confirms your app's code includes background audio listeners and location pings even when not in active use. Your U.S. privacy statements don't disclose that clearly. Why? Mr. Chu didn't answer. Karoline pressed again. If your company stores U.S. data in the United States, but your engineers in China can access it remotely, doesn't that make your security promises meaningless? We're building firewalls, he replied. Project Texas. Firewalls mean nothing when the gatekeepers are overseas, she said sharply. Her voice never rose, but her tone was unshakable. This isn't about where data lives. It's about who controls it. After her 5-minute slot ended, the room was no longer relaxed. Phones buzzed, reporters whispered. A few lawmakers looked down, taking notes with more urgency. Karoline closed her folder and leaned into the microphone. If you're watching this from home and you think this is just about apps and tech policy, it's not. This is about what's happening inside your house when you think no one's watching. Would you let a foreign company install a listening device in your child's bedroom? Then why are we letting them scroll TikTok? And with that, she yielded her time. Outside the chamber, cameras rolled. Clips of her exchange were uploaded before the hearing even ended. Fox News ran it in full. Even CNN, often critical of the administration, aired a segment titled, "Is TikTok Listening to Your Kids?" By noon, the clip had hit 7 million views. By evening, Karoline's TikTok was trending nationwide. And inside the Oval Office, a short conversation took place. The president nodded at the screen, then turned to his staff. Draft a new policy. She just opened the door. Karoline had been waiting for this moment. After exposing the surveillance aspect of TikTok in part 1 of her testimony, she now turned toward a different kind of threat, the content itself. Not just what the app was collecting, but what it was feeding. She clicked the remote. Behind her, the large congressional hearing screen lit up with a split screen. On the left, real clips from TikTok US, the kind of content that had been going viral among American teens. On the right, clips from TikTok's version in mainland China called Douyin. Clip 1. A teenage boy stacks milk crates, wobbles at the top, and crashes to the ground. Laughter chaos, 6.2 million likes. Clip 2. A girl filming herself driving her dad's car for a night ride challenge, no license, no headlights, just her and the likes. Clip 3. Lick the teacher's desk challenge at school. Screaming, running detention slips. Comment section full of emoji and YOLO. Clip 4. Benadryl challenge trends, encouraging young users to take more than the recommended dose. TikTok had removed the original, but the remakes kept multiplying. Each of these videos, Karoline said, was seen by millions of kids before being taken down, if they were taken down at all. Now the other side. Clip 1, students lined up in uniform reciting math tables. Overlay text discipline is strength. Clip 2, a teenager demonstrating a science experiment at home with captions explaining chemical reactions. Clip 3, family moments. Children cooking with their grandparents. Cultural dances, traditional music. Clip 4, educational live streams by teachers viewed by thousands of students. Encouragements to study hard and serve the nation. The room watched in silence. The contrast was chilling. One platform encourages chaos, Karoline said. The other encourages commitment. One spreads recklessness. The other spreads responsibility. This isn't just a difference in culture. This is deliberate design. Karoline advanced to the next slide. A bar graph appeared titled Average Screen Time for Users Age, 13 to 17 US versus China. US. TikTok users, 113 minutes, day. Chinese TikTok users, 40 minutes, day. Chinese app cuts off access after 40 minutes for minors by law. Not only is the content different, Karoline explained, but the time exposure is controlled in China. Here in America, they don't just give our kids digital candy. They give them a never-ending supply. Mr. Chu cleared his throat. We have family pairing tools. Parents can manage usage. Karoline didn't let up. Do you know the average age of a first-time TikTok user in the U.S.? Mr. Chu. He hesitated. I believe the terms of service specify 13. It's 10, Karoline snapped back, according to data from Common Sense Media. And that number is dropping. She clicked again. Now the crate challenge video was zoomed in. This boy broke his arm, she said quietly. He wanted to go viral, he did. His school couldn't stop it. His parents had no idea what he was watching until he showed up in the ER. Your platform rewarded that. Next slide, the driving challenge. This girl was 13, took her father's car, filmed herself driving on TikTok, got over 3 million likes before the video was reported. Your algorithm boosted it because likes mean engagement, and engagement means ad revenue. Let me ask you again, Mr. Chu, is this your idea of educational empowerment? Shu Chu's expression stayed neutral, but the silence said more than any prepared statement ever could. Karoline returned to her seat, but before she closed her folder, she delivered one more line. You've said TikTok exists to entertain, connect, and empower young people. But let me ask you this. Why does your version of TikTok in China cut off after 40 minutes, show patriotic content, and restrict dangerous trends, while the US version doesn't? Why do you protect your youth but profit off of ours? The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. One congressman dropped his pen. Another whispered to a staffer, "Did we verify that C-SPAN's live comment stream lit up?" She's right. This is eye-opening. We need to pull this app now. Even mainstream outlets couldn't ignore it. CNN's banner read, "TikTok under fire. White House official compares US vs. China content." Fox News ran the clip with the headline, "Karoline destroys TikTok CEO with 4 minutes of facts." By the next day, parent-teacher associations across the country began circulating Karoline's comparison video. A mother in Texas shared it with the caption, "Just watch this with my 11-year-old. We're done with TikTok." A high school principal in Tennessee requested permission to air the clip during assembly, and in Washington, D.C., lawmakers from both parties began drafting questions of their own. What began as a hearing was becoming a movement. As her time ended, Karoline didn't gloat. She looked down briefly, then spoke softly into the mic. This isn't about going viral. It's about what our children are becoming while no one's watching. An algorithm is a decision tree, and someone is deciding what grows. She packed up her materials, and just before she left the hearing room, she said one final sentence. Not to the chairman, not to the press, but directly to Shu Chu. We raised our children to think for themselves. Your platform trains them to scroll instead. The room hadn't fully recovered from Karoline's last words when she opened her folder again. I'd like to enter one more exhibit into the record, she said. With a tap on her tablet, the screen behind her changed. It now showed something that looked deceptively simple, a heat map of the United States. But then she said the words that changed the energy of the entire hearing. This is what engineered influence looks like. On the map, 5 states glowed red-hot: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia. Swing states. The exact places where margins are razor-thin, where elections are decided by tens of thousands of votes. And according to Karoline's team of digital analysts, these were also the states where specific political content on TikTok had been algorithmically boosted in the weeks leading up to the midterms. This wasn't random, she said. It was targeted, and it wasn't marked as political. That's what made it effective. She tapped the screen again. Now came the examples. Clip 1. A motivational TikTok featuring a young creator, saying, "We need change, vote out the noise." The clip didn't endorse a candidate, but was tagged with trending anti-conservative hashtags. Clip 2. A parody of an older white congressman falling asleep during a hearing. The captions read, "These people decide your future." The original had 3,000 views. The TikTok repost had over 5 million pushed into feeds of 18-25-year-olds in Pennsylvania. Clip 3. A viral trend using a pop song where users list things Gen Z will fix when they're in charge. Among the list, ban guns, tax the rich, cancel old politicians. None of them were direct endorsements. But that was the point. These aren't ads, Karoline said. They're algorithmically favored expressions that all point in one direction toward a very specific political ideology. And they just happen to go viral in swing states. She turned to Shu Chu. Do you deny that your platform uses regional metadata to shape content distribution? Mr. Chu hesitated. Our For You feed is tailored for engagement, not politics. But you use geolocation, yes. We use limited location data for user experience. And is that data used to deliver content? He didn't answer. Karoline didn't wait. Then let me clarify for the record. TikTok can determine where users live, what age they are, what content keeps them watching, and based on that, can push politically flavored content without disclosing it as such. She turned back to the committee. If that doesn't constitute foreign interference, I don't know what does. A buzz filled the room, not from phones but from whispers. Staffers leaning in, journalists flipping pages, members of Congress looking not at Chu, but at each other. Because Karoline wasn't just criticizing an app anymore. She was suggesting that a Chinese-owned company may have shaped the information diet of American youth in an election year. And the evidence wasn't theoretical. It was in the feed. Karoline continued now with a firmer tone. We reviewed 1,000 viral videos, tagged with the top 5 Gen Z political hashtags on TikTok during the 3 weeks before the midterms. Out of those, 96% leaned in one direction ideologically. Less than 2% offered opposing views, and 0% were labeled as political or promoted content. She paused for effect. In short, TikTok became a campaign tool, and no one signed a disclosure form. Shu Chu shifted in his seat. For the first time, he seemed genuinely cornered. A committee member interjected. Mr. Chu, do you deny that ByteDance has editorial discretion over what appears on TikTok? He replied slowly. We do not make editorial decisions. The algorithm optimizes for engagement. Karoline cut in again. Then why is political humor one-sided? Why are parody videos of Democrats buried, but Republicans amplified and ridiculed? Another video played on screen. This time it was a duet video. A creator was reacting sarcastically to a clip of a conservative senator speaking about school prayer. The audio had been remixed, pitch shifted, and overlaid with clown filters. It had 12.4 million views. Then, side by side, another video showed a Democratic senator giving a similar speech on free college tuition. No remix, no filters, no duet. It had 4,000 views. Karoline's voice remained steady. Mr. Chu, we don't need to prove your platform was choosing sides. Your algorithm already did. She let the screen go black. You've created a content machine that looks neutral, feels entertaining, but acts like a political operative with infinite reach and zero accountability. And you want parents across this country to believe it's just for dancing. No one laughed. Outside the chamber, media outlets were no longer asking whether TikTok was dangerous. They were now asking who had let this happen. Fox News launched a 2-hour special titled The Feed War, How China Targets America's Youth. NBC ran a primetime panel, TikTok and Politics, What We Know So Far. And for the first time in weeks, CNN and Newsmax shared a headline nearly word for word, White House official raises alarming evidence of election influence via TikTok. Across the country, parents weren't just deleting the app, they were calling their school boards, demanding TikTok be blocked on campus Wi-Fi. At the Department of Homeland Security, a digital threat memo was quietly updated potential foreign manipulation of youth voter behavior via short-form video platforms high priority. Karoline had done more than expose an app. She had ignited a digital wildfire. And in her final remarks that day, she made sure no one could pretend they didn't understand what was at stake. We are in a new kind of war, she said plainly. One where the battlefield is your child's screen, the bullets are clips, and the enemy doesn't wear uniforms, they wear logos. She gathered her documents. The hearing ended. The cameras followed her out. And as she walked through the Capitol steps, a reporter shouted, "What do you call what just happened in there?" Karoline didn't stop. She just answered without turning around. I call it the first real wake-up call. The backlash didn't take long. By sunset, the day of the hearing, several members of Congress were already doing damage control. A few progressive representatives went on social media to clarify what had just happened. One wrote on X, TikTok is a platform for free speech creativity and youth empowerment. Fear-mongering about it undermines digital freedom. Another appeared on MSNBC that night, suggesting Karoline's hearing had dangerous McCarthyist overtones. Karoline didn't flinch. She knew the pushback would come, not because her evidence was wrong, but because it was too right. What she had exposed wasn't just a threat to children's safety or election integrity. It was a challenge to a multi-billion-dollar system built on distraction influence and data mining. And that system didn't go down quietly. By the next morning, a few media outlets began spinning the story. TikTok CEO faces tough questions, but no direct evidence of political orders found. Karoline watched from her office. She didn't slam her desk. She didn't tweet back. Instead, she called her staff into a room and calmly said, "We're not in a fight about proof. We're in a fight about perception." Later that afternoon, Karoline returned to the Capitol for a closed-door meeting. She was invited to brief a bipartisan group of lawmakers interested in online safety and digital sovereignty. But not everyone in the room was friendly. One senator from California leaned back in his chair and smirked. "Ms. Levitt, we appreciate your passion. But do you really believe TikTok has that much power? It's an app, not a weapon." Karoline didn't blink. "Senator, with all due respect, it's both. Your generation thinks in terms of missiles and walls. My generation, we're dealing with mind share. You don't need to invade a country when you already control the scroll." The room went quiet. Even the skeptics couldn't argue with the way she put it. A representative from Florida spoke up. "So what's next? We shut it down." Karoline shook her head. "What's next is we wake up." She pulled out a draft proposal. The title read Digital Patriot Act. It wasn't about censorship. It wasn't about banning platforms. It was about transparency, jurisdiction, and national boundaries for digital influence. Under the act, no foreign-owned platform could collect biometric or behavioral data from minors. All algorithmic manipulation tied to political content would require public disclosure and audit trails. Any app operating in the U.S. would have to establish data residency requirements and submit to regular inspections. A new digital influence registry would be created to track platforms with political content circulation above a certain threshold. The room leaned in. This wasn't reactionary, it was strategic. A way to strike balance between innovation and protection, free speech and fair information environments, open markets and sovereign digital borders. But outside that room, the war for public opinion was still raging. On college campuses, Karoline's testimony had gone viral, not just among parents, but among students. Clips of her grilling Shozi Chu were being turned into memes, duets, and reaction videos. One young creator stitched her quote, "You don't need to invade a country when you control the scroll." He captioned it, "She cooked hard and I hate that I agree with her." That video alone got 9 million views. It wasn't the support Karoline expected, but it was the start of something. People weren't just watching her. They were listening. Later that week, Karoline was invited back onto national television, this time on a morning show with a skeptical host. "Let's be honest," the anchor said. "Isn't this just the new version of parents being afraid of rock music? TikTok's just a trend." Karoline smiled. "If this were just about music, I wouldn't be here. But it's not. It's about who decides what your children see, what they learn, what they believe. And right now that power isn't in the hands of parents, or teachers, or even Americans." She paused. "It's in the hands of coders in foreign offices, with zero accountability. That should terrify all of us." The host didn't interrupt again. By the end of the week, 5 more members of Congress had signed on to the Digital Patriot Act as early co-sponsors. Karoline didn't declare victory, she knew better. But she understood momentum when she saw it. And that momentum was building, one algorithm, one headline, one parent's decision at a time. She wasn't out to ban TikTok, she was out to pull the curtain back. And once people saw what was really behind it, there'd be no going back. It was billed as a special event. A primetime panel on national television, TikTok Truth and the Future of Free Speech. 3 guests, 1 hour, millions watching. Karoline Leavitt was seated across from someone she knew would pushback actor and entrepreneur Ashton Rain, a popular TikTok creator with 28 million followers, turned business mogul and vocal critic of government overreach. The moderators welcomed both guests. "Ashton, you've said that banning or regulating TikTok would be a betrayal of free speech. Karoline, you say it's a national security threat. Let's begin there." Karoline looked across the table, calm as ever. "I never called for a ban," she began. "I called for a boundary." Ashton leaned in, smiling. "You call it a boundary. But when Washington starts writing rules for what people can post, it's not long before they're writing rules for what we can think." "That's not what I proposed," Karoline replied evenly. "I don't want to control what you say. I want to know who's controlling what your audience sees. There's a difference." The studio went quiet. Ashton tried to pivot. "Look, the algorithm shows people what they like. If someone wants dancing, they get dancing. If they want politics, they get politics. That's freedom. Karoline nodded slowly. So, if a teenager in Michigan is only being shown parody videos of one political party, but none of the other, and that decision wasn't made by the user, but by the code, do you still call that freedom? It's engagement-based, Ashton replied. Exactly, Karoline said. And engagement is controlled by TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, which is answerable to the CCP. She didn't raise her voice, but the audience felt the shift. Ashton chuckled nervously. Not everything in the world is a Chinese conspiracy. Karoline smiled politely. Not everything. Just the ones designed to shape your elections, record your children's voices, and rewrite the values of the next generation without you knowing. The moderator leaned in. Ms. Levitt, are you suggesting that TikTok is being used to reshape American values? I'm not suggesting it, she said. I'm demonstrating it. In our hearings, we showed how the Chinese version of the app teaches math science and national pride. Ours teaches milk crate challenges and political mockery. If that isn't intentional design, then we've stumbled into the most coincidental digital subversion in human history. Ashton folded his arms. Well, I'm a proud American. I use TikTok. I've built my brand on it. I've created jobs, connected with fans, raised money for causes. Karoline didn't flinch. You've used it for good, but that doesn't change what it is. Your house might be beautiful, Ashton, but if it's built on land owned by a hostile regime, someone else holds the deed. The audience reacted with a collective murmur. As the panel continued, the host asked both guests one final question. What's the one thing you'd say to every parent watching tonight? Ashton went first. Don't let fear guide your parenting. Let curiosity guide your kids. Talk to them. Watch with them. Help them navigate this world, not hide from it. Karoline waited, then spoke. I'd say this, you wouldn't let a foreign agent walk into your child's classroom and hand them a pamphlet about what to believe. So why let one in through their phone? You can call it just an app. But an app that teaches, suggests, and rewards behaviors isn't passive. It's a digital parent, and it doesn't share your values. She looked into the camera. If you don't raise your child, someone else will. And these days, it's probably not someone from your neighborhood. The broadcast ended. The host thanked them both. The credits rolled. But online, the conversation had just begun. Within minutes, clips from the exchange were everywhere. TikTok users, even those loyal to the platform, began asking hard questions. A stitch of Karoline's "someone else will raise your child" quote went viral, captioned. She's not wrong, and that's scary. The comments were mixed, but growing more curious than angry. Someone wrote, I never noticed how one-sided my feed is until she said it. Another, I'm 22, I'm deleting TikTok for a week to clear my head. The shift wasn't seismic, not yet, but it was starting. Back at her office, Karoline didn't celebrate. She didn't check her trending hashtags. She poured a cup of black coffee, opened her laptop, and reviewed early edits of the Digital Patriot Act draft. Because this wasn't about winning a debate. It was about winning the future. And to do that, the American people had to do more than clap. They had to choose clarity over convenience. They had to choose sovereignty over scrolling. The bill was introduced quietly. The Digital Patriot Act, a 32-page proposal with 3 clear goals. No foreign-owned app would be allowed to collect behavioral data on American minors. Political content delivered by algorithm must be clearly labeled and disclosed. All U.S. user data must be stored within the United States under U.S. jurisdiction. Some called it restrictive, others called it overdue. Karoline Leavitt called it protection. She stood before the press, speaking not to headlines, but to households. We have rules to protect our borders, our schools, our streets. But for years our phones have been left wide open. It's time we fix that. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't call out names. She simply drew a line and asked the country to stand behind it. If you're a parent, an aunt, a grandparent, you deserve to know who's influencing the next generation, not in theory, in real time. And for many who'd seen the world change too fast, her message hit home, not as panic, but as clarity. Later that evening, in a televised address, she closed with these words, We're not banning speech, we're setting standards, because freedom means nothing if you lose the truth in the noise. This isn't about politics. It's about responsibility. It's about what we leave behind. She paused. For our kids, and for the country they'll grow up to protect. If this conversation made you pause, if it raised questions you haven't asked in a while, then we invite you to be part of the solution. Leave a comment below. Do you believe platforms like TikTok should be more transparent about what they show and to whom? Share this video with someone in your family. Whether it's a child, a grandchild, or a neighbor's teen, let's start a real conversation. And don't forget to subscribe, because protecting the next generation starts with being informed in this one.